What's up, y'all a little faith? And welcome to episode 2 of the second season of the Fagnostic Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hayes, and on today's show, I have my good friend Matthew Scott Montgomery on to talk about faith, conversion therapy, entertainment careers, and so much more. Y'all, this guy works non-stop. He's a multi-hyphenate artist based here in LA, most known for his roles on Disney's Sunny with a Chance and So Random. He's worked on tons of other shows too, including Unidentified with Demi Lovato, which you can see on Peacock, as well as Jane the Virgin, which you can also catch me on if you don't blink. He was in the filmed adaptation of Del Shore's Southern Baptist Sissies and then won the award for Best Actor from the LA Drama Critics Circle for his performance in Yellow. His resume credits seem to be endless, but today you're going to learn some new and shocking things about this fabulous talent. Welcome to the show, my friend. Matthew Scott Montgomery.
Hi.
In my house right now.
Yes.
I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah.
I was telling you that I just learned that, and we're going to talk about this, that you had gone to conversion therapy after doing what I know to be like notable queer roles, and it just floored me. So I was like, I need to talk to you about this.
Yeah, I forget like who in my life does and doesn't know, and you're someone who's like in my life, so it's like it's an odd thing to kind of bring up, I guess.
You don't like bring it up at parties or like if you run into somebody at Target, you're
well, you know, I posted this TikTok.
That's why I didn't know, because I'm not on TikTok.
Oh, got it. Well, I posted on Instagram as well. I posted the TikTok on Instagram.
Okay, well, I'll circle back.
Well, but just a couple months ago, I posted it, or a few weeks ago, to be honest, and it was something that, like, speaking of, like, I don't know who knows and who doesn't know kind of thing, I remember telling somebody and they were so thrown off and shocked by it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I realized this is something I've never like publicly said before in like any kind of way, and I really felt like the Lord like put it on my heart to like share it kind of thing. It was like this thing I woke up one morning and was like, I should share it. And I posted this thing on TikTok and Instagram as well that was like footage of, I did a lot of Disney Channel work about 10 years ago, and I posted a lot of clips of me on Disney Channel, the different characters that I played, with a voiceover saying all this time that I was working on these roles, I was actually in conversion therapy. And then it kind of went viral and a lot of people saw it and things like that. And I think it was the right thing to do, and I'm glad that I did post it. And ever since I have posted that, I've kind of not like brought it up at parties necessarily, but like I feel much more free about all of it.
Sure.
And not like I felt like caged up or anything beforehand, but now that I've posted that on there and seen the response from people, you know, people that I know and then people that I don't know, just the response, I feel like it was the right thing to do, and I'm more ready to talk about it. And it's something that I'm bring up in conversation now. And since I posted that, you know, I have been in situations where people, like a birthday party a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine saw that I posted it and she wanted to ask me about it, and she was like, was that okay? And I'm very okay talking about it. Yeah. And I'm very ready to kind of talk about it. It was about 10 years ago, so now I have like the distance from it, I think.
Sure. Let's talk about it, but let's just to get the two questions out of the way.
Yes.
Are you a believer?
I am. Okay. Yeah. I identify as a Christian. I identify as someone who believes in God, and I don't really go to church. There's a church here in LA called Church Home that I used to go to Wednesday nights.
Cool.
And that was the only church I ever felt comfortable in my entire life.
Right.
There's something about that church there that, and I haven't been in a while. I haven't been since before the pandemic. But like that one felt like very actor-centered. It felt like
speaking to people who understand
in the entertainment industry specifically. And I don't know if I was like projecting that necessarily, but like I just felt comfortable there. And that's something, I think it's the last, let me make sure exactly what it is now. I think it's the last Wednesday of every month now. However, I mean, I've had experiences here in LA where I've been asked to leave churches before. And I don't feel comfortable. I grew up in North Carolina for the most part. I'd never felt comfortable there, never felt safe there at any point, especially not in church. So my kind of relationship that I have with God and my saying I'm a believer, it feels like a very personal thing that I have kind of...
Which is how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is like... The appeal of being able to being around other people who, I don't know, I guess, quote, believe the same thing, and like the community of that, and the idea of like worship as well. But how me being a believer presents in my life right now is, this is very specific, but Church Home has an app, and I do like, they have a devotional every morning, and I go for a walk around my neighborhood, and I listen to it every single morning.
That's amazing.
And
I'll have to check this out.
Yeah,
This
I
sounds
take
fascinating.
Sundays off. So Monday through Saturday, I walk around my neighborhood.
Better take the Sabbath off.
Yeah. So Monday through Saturday, I go for a walk around my neighborhood in West Hollywood, and it's like a 6 to 8 minute devotional, and it really helps me because so much of what I do as an actor, and so much of where we are in 2022, and how I've looked at it is, it's like you're looking down at your phone, you're inside, you're closed up. So me going outside, looking up, and getting outside of myself, that's my personal relationship with God and how I see all of that.
I fucking love that. That's
Yeah.
and that's how it should be. I think that's how a lot of us came from such religious damage and trauma, is by the contingency that faith has to align with everyone else in that same buildings.
Yeah.
And that's when things go sour.
Yeah.
Real quick though, can you identify your pronouns for us?
He, him. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
It just helps me know how to address.
Perfect. Thank you so
going
much.
forward. Y'all can already tell how this conversation is going to go. There's like some guests I do have to kind of like poke and prod and guide. I ain't worried about this one at all. So let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So we met through Del Shores, who is currently downstairs now that we're neighbors.
So funny.
I know. Dill and I are probably like the most non-blood related family that one can have. Like
Yes.
attached at the at the more than the hip. I don't even know where we're attached.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you met Del. Did you know him before you did his shows, or
No, so Del gave me my first like pretty much big break here in LA.
Yeah.
So this was 2010, and I just submitted on Actors Access for a play that he was casting. It was that simple. It's a play called Yellow,
Yep.
which ran for a year here in LA, and that's what led to all the Disney stuff. I mean, a lot of things led to the Disney stuff, but that it was a huge part of it, and that was like the most defining year of my life was 2010, and I owe a lot of it to Del Shores. I definitely identify as a gay man, an actor, a Christian, and a Del Shores fan.
yeah,
There's like,
which is a very specific. I mean, that's
Yes.
accurate. And also, like, just I mean, and not to like, he'll listen to this and he'll hear us toot his horn, but like people who have worked with Del say the same thing. That was the most pivotal year of my life.
Yes.
He was the pivot point in this career. He did. I mean,
Yes.
everyone has that relationship. I think that's why I love him so much.
Yeah, you definitely get spoiled working with him because he's such a good writer in the way that he writes. I played this part Kendall. I originated as part of Kendall Parker in Yellow in 2010, and a lot of people thought that the part was written for me, and which was not the case. It was just Del's such a great writer that he knows how to write for people, and every and was in there. And I just followed the roadmap that he wrote, and it was kind of just like this perfect thing that came together, and that's all because of him, you know. And he opened up all these doors for me by believing in me from just a cold audition, me not knowing him before, meeting him before. Between the audition and the callback, I watched the entirety of Sordid Lives and did my due diligence.
Sure.
And by the time I had the callback for that, I wanted it so bad. I remember at the time, in Yellow, there's this big scene where my character, Kendall, has kind of like a long monologue towards this other teenage boy that he loves in bed, but it's a very sweet, innocent scene. And I did that. That was the callback scene, and I rehearsed it over and over and over again for a week with an Edward Cullen pillow in my bedroom. And I wanted it so bad, and I was so thrilled to get that gig. And yeah, Yellow was my life that year, and it's still one of the high points, if not high point, of my career that I've had so far.
Isn't Edward Cullen? Isn't he Twilight?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about this later on, but what a full circle moment for you, because you're doing a show right now.
I am doing a Twilight musical. Yes. Yeah, God works in mysterious
Doesn't
ways.
she? Yes. Okay, so, and then you obviously just got sucked into that world, but that character seemed to be going through things that you were also secretly going through.
Yes, I mean,
Were you out at that point?
No. So I come from a very strict Southern Baptist background. My dad was on the Southern Baptist Committee, like in the South.
And as we know, Southern Baptists love their committees.
They do love a committee, and they love a rule.
Yes.
And then my mom is a Christian as well. She was born Catholic in New York City, and she grew up in Brooklyn, and all my family literally is in Manhattan and Staten Island and Long Island. So funny. Isn't that
Is she
crazy?
Italian?
No, she's not. I think we have like 13% Italian or something after we did 23andMe as a family. So there is a little bit in there, but not an Italian Catholic.
So she went from like being a New York City Catholic to a Southern Baptist.
That's right. Yeah.
What a leap.
Yeah, quite a leap. And, you know, my kind of story really quick is both my parents were athletes, and they were both, you know, kind of business people, and they're not artistic. They're not like, they love a good movie and they appreciate it. But I kind of had to make up the acting thing on my own. I kind of had to learn that myself. A lot of me training to be an actor was I would secretly tape Will and Grace or TV shows and would watch it after my parents went to sleep. I would write down all the dialogue, and I would go late at night. I would turn the lights on my bedroom and do the scenes with myself in the mirror until I got the lines exactly right. Yeah. And there were like things like that. There was this movie called Harriet the Spy that came out when I was little that I was
Come on, Michelle Trachtenberg.
Yes.
Where is she now?
I don't know. I follow her on Instagram, but I haven't seen her working quite a bit. But I still watch Harriet the Spy all the time, which, by the way, is like not expressly, but is an innately queer movie. It's a gay movie for gay people about gay people. If you watch it again now, you got Rosie O'Donnell in it, and if you see, like, there's a lot of like queer energy in that movie that I think was subconsciously speaking to me.
I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Yes.
And I'll report
oh my god, please do. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with Harriet the Spy. Anyway, so you know I went to NYU for acting, but I only went there for 6 weeks and then moved to LA. And then when I moved here, I worked pretty hard as soon as I got here, hitting the ground running, and one of my first auditions that I had was for Yellow.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, my character's arc in Yellow was a 15-year-old gay boy who was physically and emotionally abused by his mother for being gay, and he kind of gets kicked out of his house and adopted by the family next door, where the domestic dramedy begins because he falls in love with the son in this family. The son gets a terminal illness. It's a beautiful, complicated, delicious play. It's like so fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
If you get the chance, anyone who's listening who loves to read theater, Yellow, Yellow, Yellow by Del Shores.
That's and because my paycheck comes from Del Shores, you can check out delshores.com/shop for
that's true.
to order the play.
I mean, it really is a real masterpiece. But what's so interesting was I got cast in that play I remember this very well. It was March 6th, 2010, which was my parents' wedding anniversary, they were in town, and I came from the call back to go out to lunch with them, and then I came out to them at that lunch, right after I got the call back for Yellow.
Oh my God.
I mean, it started from them asking what the play was about, me explaining what the plot of it was, and then them kind of asking, and then that's how I came out, essentially. And it did not go over well. And my parents left town, and then they came back in town a week later. My dad had like a stack of research that he put in front of me, and it was like, we think you should go to conversion therapy, and this is a therapist I think you should see. So, I mean...
It sucks too, because that research that parents of gay kids in the church often do is not open-minded research. It's very like, I need to find this solution. So who has written what James Dobson, wannabes?
You find what you're looking for, essentially. And if you've seen the documentary Pray Away on Netflix, there's a doctor in there who passed away a few years ago. His name was Dr. Nicolosi, and that's the doctor that that's who I went to.
Everyone's shocked to find out that there's a conversion therapist in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it was in Encino, and when I would go there, they prided themselves on, I remember my therapist saying, you go watch any movie, any straight actor, they've walked through the halls of here. Every straight actor who once was gay, we changed them here. And that was like part of their pride of going to this certain place.
What a wonderful reputation.
Mm-hmm. Wow, right? And it was an odd... I mean, like, as growing up queer in North Carolina, you have to create a sense of duality for yourself to survive. When I grew up, I literally had two journals. One where I wrote exactly what was happening in my queerness, and I would cross it all out and throw it out. And then I would have a journal where I wrote what I thought I was supposed to be going through, and I would leave that journal out just in case anyone would see it. And I think it's hard for a lot of like straight people and for my parents and a lot of people to understand that you have to create this double life kind of in a way just to survive. It was a dangerous environment that I was in. There was a lot of violent bullying that happened. And I could also talk in another podcast maybe about how queerness and that duality of code switching leads to actors being really good actors.
I was about to segue into that too, because we're acting our whole life.
Yeah, I think there's something about being born queer and there's a quote about this somewhere, but I forget who said it, but it's like you get a head start on empathy because you're in on the joke of being alive.
Yes.
So it's like you look around and you're like, oh, everyone's following these set rules. These don't apply to me, but I'll play along with this stuff. It's a very RuPaul, you're born naked and the rest is drag kind of thing. So it's like heterosexuality in a way, institutionalized heterosexuality is like drag essentially.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like this like these roles that everyone is supposed to fill, and when you're a queer person, you're like, I don't fit in with these roles. These roles are not for me. This is not something that like innately comes to me. So you have to work on seeing what that is and pretending. If that makes sense.
It sure does. And I was just, as you were talking, I wanted to, because do you remember this Bible, the student Bible?
I do remember that Bible.
So when I was home last,
oh my God, NIV, wow.
Yeah, my dad, I was like, you've got stuff in the attic, like go look. And I love to rummage, so I went up there. I got this, but this is why, there's so much highlighted things, just like notes, but then there's this guy. Do you remember the True Love Waits rallies?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember that.
I've talked about it on here before, but it's basically where you're making a promise to the divine to keep yourself pure for your mate, so you don't have sex until marriage. And I was like 14 years old, like probably couldn't even get a boner. Wow. And I swore that I would never,
Oh my God. Have you been married before?
No.
So you're still a virgin?
No, I have slept with a woman.
Wait a second, True Love Waits.
I know. No, I actually slept with a girl after I came out as gay.
Oh, really?
Just to prove to myself that I could.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Back to you and your problems.
Yes. No, I'm intrigued.
God, I know.
Wow, I need to catch up on every episode of this podcast.
Oh, Lord. So anyway, okay, yes. So that I love that you recognize that, because I think it is one of our tools as actors, is that like we have been through that, that entire rehearsal process of life. And so we are able to...
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I got cast in Yellow, there was a part I was very ready to play, and the parallels in my life were, it wasn't quite as extreme. My parents are lovely. There was no kicking out of the house. I was also over 18, and I was living out in LA. So like, it wasn't like I was 15 years old and I was forced to go to this thing. But when the stack of research was presented in front of me, I said to my parents, I was like, I don't believe in this. I don't think this is okay, but because I love you, I will go. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand as well. But if you grew up in the environment that I grew up in, it's like every morning you wake up and you feel in trouble if you're still alive.
Yeah.
So it's like you open your eyes, like, oh no, I'm still here. Oh no, kind of thing. And you work so hard all day, every day to do everything absolutely perfect for everyone's approval, specifically your parents' approval, because you already feel just evil for innately existing.
Well, and we're taught that the original sin is one of the key tenets of Christianity.
Oh, sure.
That's why I'm so interested in Western religion, or in Eastern religion, because we start off on the wrong foot. We are literally, as according to Christian and Western tradition, you start off, you were born and you are already sinful.
Yeah.
Whereas in Eastern religion, you don't. You don't start off sinful. You start out pure and holy, which is how I kind of view it now.
Yeah.
But it really, even if you're not gay, it just sets you up for fucking failure. Like it's why so many Christians go through their backsliding and go through their, unrepentant years, or whatever they call it, their vernacular is. But do you feel like the conflict you were experiencing within yourself and your faith and sexuality allowed you to honor and portray the conflict of Kendall and Yellow in a way that you could not have had you not been going through this conversion therapy process?
Yes.
So thank God, because art imitates life and vice versa.
Yes. I like how I feel my personal relationship with God, and I'm going to say he for God, that's what I say. Okay. But I feel like with he and I, it's kind of like we're both in on the joke of existence, kind of. Yeah. And the messaging that I get from the God that I believe in tells me, I'm so sorry all these people are all wrapped up in the wrong thing. Don't worry, I got you. And kind of like a loving smile and a roll of the eyes in a way.
I like that guy.
And yes, exactly. And so that's who I felt his guide. And I don't think that God was taught to me growing up. I think that's something that I had to glean from what I was told and saw and heard and what felt right to me. And I would say, like, okay, we can get into a conversation about, like, if you go by just what Jesus said, blah, 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 like, stuff like that. Sure. And at its simplest and least complicated, I guess I could say I identify with all of that, where the message of love was what I took away from it and was most important to me. So throughout the experience of moving out here to LA, dealing with my parents and family, and then being in Yellow as well, it wasn't like, the conversion therapy was in a way torturous and torture. There's also like mental torture as being a queer person in North Carolina, but I don't.
And in our industry.
Yes,
people
for
think
sure.
that Hollywood is like the most liberal thing in the world, and it ain't.
It's not, and it's come a long way, but it's still a lot of mental gymnastics every day to unpack a whole lot of things. However, I don't remember the experience of Yellow being anything but home, family, comforting, cathartic, the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I remember before I did that show, every single night I would literally become so overwhelmed with joy before I went out on stage that I would jump up and down because there was so much energy in my body. And we did over 100 shows, and that was every single night, and it was pure. And so to
Do you
have
feel like Yellow saved you? Like, did you struggle with, within conversion therapy, I feel like there's so much suicidal potential ideation.
That's a really good question. I think it was a combination of things that, quote, saved me. And a lot of it would be work that I did myself and getting to perform and to act. I would say I saved myself with God's help, but God led me to Del Shores. That's what I believe. And that's what I think. I mean, I did conversion therapy for a long time. I want to say it was almost 2 years. So like it started while I was doing Yellow, and then while I was doing Yellow, I got cast on 3 or 4 different Disney Channel shows for the next 2 years. And on my days off, I was in conversion therapy. But it got to the point where, and my parents were paying for it, and it got to the, well, when I first went, and I think I said this before, I told my parents I don't believe in this, but when I sat down my first day at therapy, I was like, I think I said to them to their faces that I thought it was bullshit. I think I said that. But my therapist at the time was like, that's fine if you don't believe in any of this, or you think let's just treat this as actual therapy. So for the first, I want to say maybe 6 months, it was like going to therapy, which was really, really nice. Now that wasn't my parents sent me to a therapist when I was in 3rd grade for reasons that are still confusing to me. At the time, I remember I wasn't good at sports, so they sent me to therapy. That's what it felt like. Yes. So, I'm the opposite, I think, child of what my parents expected to have.
They're both athletes, and they expected you to...
Yes. So growing up, we had a rule in the house where it was 1 sport a year, and everything was very straight in sports, which is the exact opposite of how God made me and how God gave me to my parents. And so it wasn't my first time going to therapy, but I remember it was my first time really going to therapy as an adult. And that therapy was helpful for me to speak out loud about things that I had never been able to speak out loud before, which was about my sexuality. However, it backfired for the conversion therapist because me hearing myself speak out loud and talk about my experiences with attraction towards men, they called it SSA, which is same-sex attraction, getting the whole thing, but like I found it more validating for me, where it like strengthened me as a person. I remember they would like show me this like Venn diagram of like when I was feeling guilt and shame, and that's when I would seek out SSA or SSA behavior. So basically what they were trying to tell you was, and what the conversion therapist said was that I'm a sensitive artistic boy who was born with that temperament, with an emotionally unavailable father and an emotionally overbearing mother. So when I hit puberty, I wasn't attracted to women because I'd been so smothered by my mom that I wanted the affection of a straight man, and that's something I'll never get, and I'll never be happy, and that's why I need to be changed. Okay.
And that's still, just so y'all know, that's still how they define most gay men
as a science equation.
Yes.
So that was like the understanding going in, right? And so we would talk about my attractions to men and when I felt them, and they were trying to lead me and push me towards in homework I had to do at home and things like that, about how, and when I was feeling those moments of guilt and shame, that's when I sought out the affection of a gay man. And where we would butt heads was where that didn't compute to me. That didn't make sense to me. I was like, if anything, I'm seeking out the affection of a man when I'm feeling empowered and confident.
Yeah.
Like if we have to put it in those terms, I was like, well, if I'm feeling myself, then I'm gonna go up to a guy at a bar or whatever it was, and I wouldn't give them that answer that they were kind of looking for. And so for the first few months, like, it was helpful for me to speak out loud to somebody. But then after a while, now this was called reparative therapy, which is just another word for conversion therapy. They knew conversion therapy had a scary connotation, so they would use the word reparative. If you Google reparative therapy, conversion therapy comes up.
Yeah, which I actually think repair sounds worse because it suggests that there was a brokenness. Whereas conversion kind of has an equation of like this to that.
Yeah.
But I think repair is even worse.
There was something about conversion therapy that I always equate that with electric shock therapy, which is kind of what it turned into.
Because we saw Latter Days. Remember that movie Latter Days?
I know, I didn't see that.
Oh, they do a whole scene of the electric shock therapy. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. The furthest it got for me with that stuff was about like 6 months in, they were kind of like, we think we should do double sessions. So I'd go there for 3 hours. I'd drive all the way to Encino and go for it. Because I think it was like an hour and a half normally, or an hour and 50 minutes. And then I was there for like 3.5 hours. And then it would be, I literally had like a textbook, and it'd be like there'd be like equations, which is so like deadening and dehumanizing and completely insane. And, I would bristle at it. I would like, argue with them, and I would be like, why am I here? And I think the second to last, or maybe last time I was there, was when they handed me like these like metal rods that I had to hold in my hand that they assured me wasn't shocking. It would just be buzzing and light buzzing. And they would bring up certain scenarios. I remember at one point they wanted me like envision if the earth was desolate or something, and I was like hugging a man and we're the last two left on earth, and then they would buzz my hands at the thought of that. And I called my dad, I think, when I left, and I finally had the wherewithal within myself to be like, I'm not going back to that. And my dad was like, okay. And I recently looked back and I wrote my dad a long series of emails about my experience with it and what I was saying, what I took away from it. And I was very proud of myself in 2013, standing up for myself and what I said in those emails. When I came out with a TikTok, I was like, let me go back and see, because I hadn't like mentally gone back there, and I wanted to search my emails to see. I'm like, because I must have emailed with like the therapist or something, and I went back and I read all of that stuff to get more of a timeline, and I was very proud of myself and the way that I stood up for myself over email. And I'm not exactly sure where that came from.
That strength, you mean?
Yeah, I think I get a lot of people on social media and on my Cameo as well, where people like ask me, please tell me, it gets better. And I think that was like the Trevor Project phrase. And my answer always is, and it's not a joke, but it might seem silly, it doesn't get better, but you get better. You know what I mean? So it's like you just get better with handling it and dealing with it. I think I got a lot of confidence probably, and maybe I might backtrack on my answer now, say Yellow was more saving my life than I realized. A lot of confidence from getting to perform that stuff in a cathartic way. And I got to do a live performance and a film version of Dell's Southern Baptist Sissies.
Right.
And I did that after I was out of conversion therapy. So essentially Yellow I was in, and then Southern Baptist Sissies when I got out. And there was something about...
And if you haven't seen his performance in Southern Baptist Sissies, let me just encourage you, please find a way to watch it, because it is. There are so many fabulous performances, but your storytelling of that is just like...
Oh, thank you.
So beautiful.
Yeah, I think I was... that was definitely... I was coming into my own at that time. Mm-hmm. I mean, as an actor, I watch it back now. I'm like, I could do that scene better. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm very emotionally available in a way now that I think I was still learning back then. I was a really young actor, but like Dell's such a great director as well, working through all that stuff. But there's something about like performing that stuff live, and like... I truly believe that, like, that's a gift from God as an artist, is that we get to, like, live things out and express ourselves. You know what I mean? That was something I felt I couldn't do in North Carolina. I felt like I couldn't express myself. I was in the middle of the night running scenes of myself in a mirror because I needed to express myself. And getting to do, and a lot of crazy shit that I did on Disney Channel. I got to do that for years, and I got to, like, kind of live my dreams in a way that I feel really, really blessed and lucky that I got the chance to do that. And I think some of the confidence maybe came from that. But maybe it's just the catharsis of being able to express myself.
Yeah.
And also distance, like getting out of a place like North Carolina. We were just talking earlier about a location that you're in, getting out of, you don't realize how much that does to you until you're out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, there's a lot of queer kids online sometimes who, ask for advice and things like that. And sometimes I'm tempted to say, like, move to LA as soon as possible. Yeah. But I realize that that's my personal journey, and like I'm an actor, so like LA is kind of the place to be. And I do understand and realize and recognize and empathize with those who can't get out of their situations.
Yeah.
But like, even if it's going for a walk or going down the street or whatever it is, getting away from that and getting the distance from it, you see it for what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and getting that time away. And it's like, I look back at what I grew up in North Carolina, and I realize how inherently and morally wrong it is, and how that wasn't me, that's not me. I really feel like I was born in 2010 when I came out. I really feel I was born playing Kendall. I was born like...
Which is an interesting play on words, because in our Christian tradition, the phrase born again is when you die to self and you are now born of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I've often had that same thought of like, my true salvation experience was March 16th of 2004 when I came out to myself, you know? That's the date that I look at as when I was saved.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. That makes total sense. Yeah, I think even like the idea of Christianity to me growing up, even the idea of being born again, it wasn't even like I was on the outside of that being gay. It's like I wasn't even part of wasn't even considered to be on the outside to be near that, because it's like all I heard, I went to a private Christian school, and all I was shown and heard was that love your neighbor as yourself. God, you know, Jesus loves the little children, like all this thing about love. Oh, except for gay people.
Yeah.
No. They're not even, we don't even deign to speak of them. They're so evil and dirty and wrong. And I remember everything that was ever said about queer, trans, feminine men, anything about the LGBTQIA plus community. I remember everything since the moment I was born to now, especially North Carolina. I remember everything that was said. And it was like we were so shoved out of the equation. It's like we weren't even part of it. So even you saying like born again Christian, I'm like, oh, that's for straight people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we were so on the outside of that.
Yeah.
And that's that energy that I was talking about, where the God that I believe in is like holding me in his arms, kind of like we were saying. And my character Andrew's monologue in Southern Baptist Sissy kind of alludes to this in a way. But like where God's like, oh no, baby, they got it all so wrong. Yeah. Let's get you out of there. That's not me. That's not what I mean when I say love your neighbor. That's not what I created. Here, come with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's who I walk with every single morning, and that's who I listen to the devotional with, and that's who I pray to.
I'm gonna check that out.
You know,
I have a joke that because I feel like as I'm deciding what I believe in, you know, if I believe in a who, I'm coming to the place, and I feel like I actually have gotten to a place where I'm able to appreciate what is in this book, the Bible.
Yeah.
And there are, because this podcast started out, you know, episode 1, season 1, of me wanting to squash religion. I was so mad.
Yeah.
And as I got to have these fabulous conversations with people like you, I got to a place of realizing, like, you know what, like, I was listening to those loudest voices, but there are voices that I don't give as much credit to that are actually more powerful and more relevant to me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm in a place where like I can pull things from this book that offer me hope and guidance, and I can disassociate it with some of the haters that preach hate.
100%.
And now this joke is like, if Jesus knew what was being done in his name, he'd be rolling over in his grave.
100%.
But the joke being that he ain't in his grave because allegedly he rose from the grave.
Oh yes, got it.
So he ain't there no more. This is why I don't ever say it.
We listen to Christian comedy. We listen to Christian humor.
We do, and we also have Christian music. I still on Sundays I still will like put on Avalon's greatest hits.
Oh my gosh! I was in a praise band growing up. I was like one of the male lead singers, so I would sing.
Every gay Christian was in a praise band growing up.
Oh yeah,
we had that was one of our outlets for creativity.
100%.
When Dylan Emerson and Blake and we were all in the car driving up to Northern California last week. I forget how it came about, but something came about worship music, and so we put on praise and worship music, like old school, like 90s and 2000s, and all four of us were just, worshiping.
Yeah, some of that is actually genuinely very good memories for me, and that music, that music feels good.
Yeah.
And I think, I believe that there's, I believe in God, and I believe that God has a plan for everybody. I believe all of that. And that gives me joy, and that gives me a sense of comfort.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think that, and that's what works personally for me. Like is that true? Do we know that God exists? Like, not no. Is it Hebrews 11:11? It's like faith is.
Well, I can tell you, I have my Bible right here.
It's like faith is. Someone who's listening already knows what it is.
I know.
It's like faith is unseen, something unseen. Oh my gosh, I used to do Bible drill. I should know this.
Do you know the Bible book song? So like for New Testament, was it Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Acts of the letter of
No.
Romans.
I think I can name them
First
all,
and
but I don't
First
know the song.
Corinthians, Galatians, and Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, First and Second Thessalonians, First and Second Timothy, Titus and Philemon, Hebrews and the Book of James, First and Second Peter, First and Second, Third John, Jude, and Revelation. Well, that singing that song just helped me find it. So this chapter is called By Faith. Hebrews 11:11 says. What would you think it was again?
Something like faith, something unseen and something about faith. Am I wrong? Am I so wrong? I'm so wrong.
By faith, Abraham, even though he was past age.
Is this right?
Faith by 11:1, not 11:11, 11:1 is now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see.
That's it.
This is what the ancients were commended for.
Hebrew 11:1. So anyway, like, do I know that, like, Christianity is for sure real? Do I know God is real? No, but I have faith that it is, because that gives me...
Yeah.
That's how I make it through the day.
Well, and it can be real for you and not real for somebody else.
Yes.
That's what I'm kind of getting to a place in life.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
You know, I mean, because I've always said that, like, if I'm going to return to religion, it's probably going to be Judaism.
Yeah.
Because I just feel really connected to that questioning, that, you know, that very ancient historical tradition.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that that's what... If this world is going to survive the next 100 years, we've got to find a mutual respect and love of what other people are guided by.
Yeah. The TikTok that I posted, I ended it with saying, you know, if you've been through or going through conversion therapy, there's nothing wrong with you, nothing needs to be changed, and that God loves you and made you, and I love you too, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's something I don't ever remember hearing that ever once growing up. I know I never heard that. And so, you know, I think for the world we live in right now, and especially in like a quick social media kind of place, I think the easiest and best message that I would want to share with queer kids or anyone who's going through conversion therapy is that they are loved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I choose to say that God loves you, and, you know, exactly. And I think that message is thesis statement most important to me, and frankly what I think most important about, you know, Christianity in general, is that God is love.
Yeah.
And that there's, you know, there is hope and love that exists for you.
Yep.
Because I never got that.
Because what we did get was that message, but with the contingency, the comma, unless you don't commit your sin, if you're not gay, if you're not a feminist, you know, if you've not had a divorce or an abortion. Yeah. I mean, it's just nothing but contingent. That's the whole idea of fundamentalism, is contingencies on that unconditional love.
And unfortunately, you know, most queer people that I know that grew up religious or in a church, their takeaways are some of the negative things that we're talking about, and frankly, mine as well. Like, unfortunately, that's the kind of stuff that sticks with you. Yeah. You know, that's kind of the stuff that lasts.
That's why it takes so long, usually, to get over. I mean, if you have, 18 years of your life with this in your head.
You know, there's that's stuff that I still work on undoing all the work of it. I mean, it's hard to say. I think a lot of it's environment for me. Like, I still, every time I walk into a room, not here really, but in a public space, I check where all the exits are. You know, it's you always are very aware of your surroundings. I grew up in a very, very nice neighborhood, quote nice, but I never felt safe there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I never felt like I could completely breathe or relax while I was there. And that's something that sticks with me to this day. If I go out to a straight club, that's triggering for me. Yeah. There's a set of work I have to do mentally to gear myself up to get out to go and do that. Yeah. That's stuff that you would never know just looking at me, but internally that's something that I don't know. That's all queer people. I don't know if that's conversion therapy. That's growing up in North Carolina. I don't know if that's
our generation of gay men.
Yes, I don't know if it's a millennial thing. I don't know if it's a Southern Baptist thing, but there is a set of work that I have to do, and that amount of work gets shorter and shorter every time. But anytime I enter a room, and sometimes when I'm beginning the day, and also it kind of it sometimes gets in the way of enjoying movies and television. There's certain things where it's I call it the 3 strike rule. If there's a movie where, if there's a gay slur that's used, or being gay is the punchline, I'm I don't need to spend my time in my life watching something that wasn't written for me. It was through the straight male gaze, and that's deemed as a joke.
Right.
Which has gotten to a place now for me where it's like rewatching a lot of old sitcoms that I used to like. I can't watch it
Even
anymore.
Will and Grace. I mean, I still do love Will and Grace.
Yeah.
But I think, like, if I were in a place now, or if I were in the place that I am now and watching it fresh then, I would be like, this is so...
100%.
A, not representative. B, a little slanderous.
Totally.
And also a little problematic sometimes.
Yeah.
But, like, that representation
Yeah.
mattered so much for the sake of our visibility.
It did. Yeah, and I think representation is super, super, super important because... Say for someone who, you know, grows up in North Carolina and your only outlet for the rest of the world is through television.
Yeah.
You are told what's funny and what should be made fun of, and you're told like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, kind of thing. I think multicam specifically can be guilty of that because there's literally an audience laughing at whatever it is.
Whenever they hold the light up to say...
Yes, and the
laugh or
majority
applause.
of... things I have issues with some of those will be when it's like a joke about a no homo joke essentially. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm at a place where it's like I don't want to spend my life watching that kind of stuff anymore.
Yep.
But that's like some of the work I'm talking about, like mentally, that you as a queer person you have to do all the time.
Yeah. All the time.
All the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So was there ever a period when you went through agnosticism or atheism?
No.
You always had a faith that you were being held by the divine.
Yes,
in a way that was antithetical to how it was presented to you.
Yes, I've never had an experience like that. It's I guess it might be easier for me to say now. I mean, maybe you've asked me that like 10 years ago, but like, so I do this thing, and I've done this ever since I was, I don't know, probably my adolescence. Whenever there's a full moon, I'm like attracted to it. Mm-hmm. So like when I was a kid, I would sneak out on the roof of my house and whenever there's a full moon, I'd stare up at the full moon and I would like listen to music. Now I do like, all my friends know this, I do like a full moon walk in the middle of the night whenever there's a full moon. The next one is this Friday. And I have like a fucking full moon ritual, and I do this whole thing. And to me, and this is just something I naturally, innately was attracted to.
Sure.
To me, that feels like God time. And I see the full moon as God winking at me, being like, the stuff I was saying before, it's like the whole world is a joke and we're both in on it and this is our private time together. And I always remember feeling tethered to something up and out there that felt like love and comforting me throughout all of it. Now maybe that's something that I made up for myself to survive my way through, but it feels and has always felt very real.
Thank God you did.
Yeah. And I felt like that, whatever that full moon connection is, I'm going to say that it's God for now. I feel like has carried me through all of that, and I've never doubted that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I may have doubted like the conduit through which that comes through and the muddiness of how private Christian school and just blanket Southern Baptists and straight men or straight culture have tarnished, ruined, and poisoned that thing. But like I've always felt that like I've always trusted that there was something out there that loved me and was carrying me through all of it, and I've never doubted that.
You're so lucky to not have had that dark lull, because not everyone comes out of that dark lull.
Yeah.
But also thank God you have this voice that you are able to help others who are in that dark lull listen and hear like, okay, I want to believe in his tethering
But
point.
I needed to separate myself to be able to hear that voice. Do you know what I mean? Like I've always been a kid that's been desperate to live out loud and express himself, right? And so there was something about the calling of the full moon, like I'm a fucking werewolf or something, where everyone else had to be asleep.
Look, I'll believe in a werewolf because I used to believe in a man that rose from the dead. So I'll believe anything.
Sure. Yeah, lycanthropy. But like I needed to turn everything else off to see what was underneath when things were quiet.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's why I go for the daily walk every day. So like when you turn everything off and you see what is under there, and I have found it for me, if I really, really listen to what's underneath, for me, and I recognize this is not the case for, I want to say, majority of people / queer people, that what I found like underneath what was there was love and some semblance of hope that I was desperate to hold on to.
Which is what the whole message of Christianity is
Yeah.
about, is that hope.
Yeah.
That hope for something greater.
And I really do feel like that's there. I mean, there were times where if you've made it this far in the podcast and you heard earlier, I mean, I would wake up and be like, oh no, I'm still alive. Like, that was a very real thing. You know what I mean? Like, and that was also the idea, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that always kind of bounces through your mind as a queer person.
Yeah.
You know, I am lucky and blessed enough that I never got to the place where I felt like my only option was to take my own life.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I feel for those people, and I can understand where that comes from. And I have very, very close friends of mine who have dealt with that and are dealing with that and will continue to deal with that. And
because of this, I hear from a lot of people, you know, in especially Southern church settings, who are going through it. And so I try to be really attentive to like my inboxes, because, you know, social media doesn't show us all the messages that come in anymore. You have to like go to like message requests and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been really humbling, because I look at 2022 and what's on TV and who are our, you know, social media thought leaders, and it's still like, oh, people are still feeling the same way that I did. And I never had that suicide ideation either. I mean, maybe the ideation, but I never acted on it fully.
Yes.
Aside from like destructive lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
But what I do remember vividly is being like driving on the road and praying to God for there to be an 18-wheeler to sideswipe me, or for, you know, me to sneeze and hit the telephone pole, something that was out of my control. So it took the weight off of my choice.
Yeah.
But
yes,
it's, I mean, talking to you and just hearing, because I just never knew this about you. This is so interesting and I'm so thankful that you are talking about it now, because you've got a presence online and people pay attention to you. And I just cannot imagine how many people are benefiting from you rehashing the pain that you have been through.
Well, thank you. And I'm thrilled to be here as well. And I'm so happy about how successful this podcast is and that people are hearing it. And I do think that's representation there that matters.
That's why I keep doing it, honestly, because I just feel like as artists, it is our job to create and to progress. And this is, you know, while this is not, you know, being, you know, 6-figure purchased for, you know, streaming rights or something, like, I do feel like the spiritual relevance of this, I can see daily. It's palpable for me.
Yeah. And I you know, if there's anyone who's listening who's identifying a lot with what we're saying, you know, again, my message with it is, I think underneath all of it, there is love and there is hope. I remember in 9th grade, I was writing a note to a friend of mine, and I said in the note that I didn't want to be here anymore. I did say that. And I remember she took it to the guidance counselor, and I had a meeting with the guidance counselor. Now, there are some people that were born to be really good guidance counselors and some people who are excellent at their job. And then there's other kinds of people. And so my guidance counselor, it was a very negative experience working with her.
This is at a Christian
This is a Christian school, and I was mostly ignored by the faculty there. How
could Matthew Scott Montgomery be ignored? That is beyond me.
Well, I was pretty effeminate at the time, and there were certain teachers who wouldn't look at me, and there were certain teachers who... There was one time, I remember a group of guys, the baseball team was... I was walking down the hall, and they pushed me back and forth and, you know, called me faggot and saying gay and whatever. And there was this teacher who called me into his room and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "What was happening?" And I was like, "They were saying that I'm gay." And he goes, "Oh, that's awful. You're not gay." And I realized in that moment, I'm not safe at school because I can't tell on anyone because I'm the one that's going to be in trouble no matter what. Yeah. And the guidance counselor there, I remember how irritated she was, and certain things that she said and the energy that she gave me that made me know for sure that I wasn't welcome there and my problems weren't worth her. And that's how, I mean, like, some really dark things happened at my school with the faculty there. And that's when I started, like, I mentally moved to LA. Like, I mentally was in, like, you know, I mentally had to move to New York or LA because I was like, I don't belong here. I'm not safe here. This is not the place here for me. But, like, I think the outlet of pop culture and my alone time at home and me gleaning from what I had learned about what rang true to me inside of a God that loves me is what got me out of there and got me to LA. And that's a lot of hard work I had to do on my own myself.
Have you received backlash from anybody who is from that part of your life who are still subscribing to that version of Christianity, who resent or verbalize their aggression with where you are now with your faith?
I think the language that is used towards queer people is so indoctrinated with straight people that they don't even realize what they're doing or what they're saying. And I've just now in the last couple of years started talking back, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like there's a really close friend of mine and I love her, and she's a straight girl, and we were out at a straight club one night, and this was right before the pandemic. And again, like I was saying, there's an amount of work I had to do to get to that straight club, but I was fine. I was living. I'm an extrovert. I was having a really good time, and I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys came on, and she goes, and I was singing along, and she goes, "Uh-oh, your gay is showing," and it triggered me, and I left, and I posted on Close Friends that night, and I was like, this really bothers me, and I do I take this moment to teach her why that's not something you say, or do I just let it go? And I decided to teach her, and I very carefully took her out to eat, and I broke it down for her why that was a hurtful thing to say. First of all, it's like, what that says is pop music is gay, which feels very high school.
It's like saying
South.
Pink is for girls.
Yes. And then also the way you say it, where it's like, "Uh-oh, your gay is showing," and that's a threat, and how like blah blah blah. She was mortified. Bought me a bunch of like Backstreet Boys merch, which I thought was very funny. And she's a lovely person, and I adore her. But like those kind of things that are said, like that's just one tiny thing. There's zillions of things that we've heard that we've had to put up with. Because gay people are so less than, it's like you don't even think about it, and like that kind of stuff. Which is why the main representation message I want to have that I hope can last is that like you are loved, as opposed to "Uh-oh, your gay is showing," or "you need to change," or "God only loves you if," or "God loves you when." It's like God loves you now. God made you on purpose. That's what I believe.
You were counting that story. I actually feel like I need to go back and address this, but to this straight couple I know. But there's a straight couple I'm very good friends with, and they were inviting me to a gathering at their house with a lot of other straight couples. Probably, and they, there's always the preface of like, "You'll be the only gay one there," or like, "I got one other gay friend coming, so you'll have support," or something like that, which is harmless in theory, right? But this time they said, there's it's all straight couples, but you'll be fine because you're a safe gay.
And what does that mean?
Right. What it meant was like, I can pass in a crowd of, and because I like sports, I took it to mean like, I'm not that gay, that flamboyant to where I'm going to make their friends uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. Like, but even at 30 years old, that still was a badge of honor for me. Because there's still that trauma of wanting to please and wanting to fit in.
Yes.
And so I didn't even realize until you just said that, and that memory popped up, and I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to them about that.
Yeah. It implies that there's a dangerous gay, and that danger should be inflicted upon.
And God damn it, I want to be the dangerous gay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like in our industry, it's tricky as well. I talk about this sometimes, but there was... I had an audition in 2016 that was for a character, and the description was gay but not a victim. And I had a very big issue with that because of the presupposition that makes that only gay people exist to be victims. And I was like, oh my gosh, this story is being told from a straight lens because gay but not a victim. And I really like spiraled when I read that and had to really like wrap my head around it. I'm at a place now where... we're also trained as actors. You live in terror of never working ever again. So if anyone offers you any gig, you take it no matter what. Yep. Like even if you like, if it's like a one-line gag of like, a flamboyant gay guy saying, "Oh, honey, not during my brunch," or whatever the hell the line is. Like you'll take it because you're afraid of not working ever again. And I'm at a place now where I'm very careful about what I accept and what I don't accept, and like. What kind of stories that we're trying to tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of stories we're trying to put out there. And because that somewhere is teaching a kid, in his room in North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
that's all that they could be, or deserve to be, or, whatever that is.
Have you faced any in this industry? Because even with your religion, with your faith, have you faced any backlash with your faith in this industry?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I haven't. No one's ever said anything to my face about it, I guess.
Because even while Hollywood portrays this pseudo-liberalism, there is still the discomfort I find with anything that's like remotely Christian.
Yes, I think most people assume that because I'm gay that I'm not a Christian, or I'm like a witch of some kind. Like, I get that every now and then, where sometimes people think I like Halloween-y stuff, so a lot of times people think I am legitimately into the occult or like witchcraft or anything like that, and I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, I love me a, go off sis if that's your thing. You know what I mean? Like 100%. But I get that assumption like sometimes.
One of my favorite memories of you is actually when you were dog sitting at Dell's house. And you were there for maybe like a week, but it was over Halloween. And I walk in, and you had decorated his house for Halloween. Of
course I
and I was like, "Oh my god, this is fabulous!"
Yeah, I love Halloween. I love it so much, and I think it's probably very confusing to be like a gay Christian actor who loves Halloween. You know?
Yeah,
because
we couldn't celebrate. I mean, we had like trunk or treats and like fall festivals. But we really, my parents weren't like that bad about Halloween, but like it wasn't like. We could not have gone balls to the wall with Halloween. We were just allowed to like play dress up for a minute,
Yeah, it was an issue at school, but at home there was never an issue with that.
Yeah.
I actually have a great relationship with my parents, and my parents are great, and I see them all the time, and we talk all the time.
Because they live out here now too?
Yeah, they do.
Cool.
Yeah, they live just a couple hours away.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I've forgiven them and made my peace with I believe that they were doing and continue to do what they think is right and what is best. Unfortunately, a lot of that ended up being the opposite of what was right and what was best for me specifically. But I'm at peace with that now, and I love them so much. And I think that was confusing for people too when I posted on like the TikTok, and a lot of people thought Disney Channel had sent me to conversion therapy, and it wasn't. It was my family.
Right.
I was over 18, so I did actually go of my quote own accord. Like no one like threw me in a bag in the back of a van and drove me to conversion therapy. You know what I mean? Like that never happened, kind of thing.
That's what people don't understand, is that conversion therapy, people assume it's like the most dramatic of circumstances. Right. It's often us, because I also went through conversion therapy in college that my parents never knew about. And it was because of that traumatic fear we have of damnation.
Yeah.
And most conversion therapy, I don't want to say most because I don't know the data, but I would imagine that there's a good bulk of conversion therapy dropouts who were there because they wanted to go and fix themselves.
A lot of the idea behind it is, you're unhappy, we can make you happy, come here, kind of thing. Yep. And that can be very subliminal, and it's not overt, strap you to a chair and show you images and zap you. That's why when it was happening to me with the stuff I was holding in my hands, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, before I even realized this was happening, it turned into that thing that I thought was worst case scenario, what everyone says it is.
Yes.
And it was very sneaky how it got to that point, because, it was like it preyed on vulnerabilities, and it worked its way in gradually, that all of a sudden, before I knew it, I'm holding these things in my hand, and, I'd already, played gay on stage and like worked my way through that, and still I'm sitting in an office willingly going through this.
After you left, did they like try to like reach back out to you and like, no, you're lost now?
No, nothing like that.
So it was just a financial transaction for them, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a confusing. It really confused me why they existed, because my therapist, so Dr. Nicolosi was the guy who passed away a few years ago. It was his therapy place, and it was his son who was my therapist, who was a guy who probably was 30, was a young guy, and do
you think he was licensed?
I assume so. I don't know. And he was a soft-spoken, quiet kind of guy, and I would ask him all the time, why are you doing this, and like, what do you get out of this? And of course that goes nowhere. You know, like they're like, we're not here to talk about me, we're here to talk about you kind of thing. And it just, that whole thing confused me because I was like, why? I almost felt bad for this guy because I'm like, why are you doing what your dad's making you do? He was the only therapist that I ever saw. They were very like cagey there, where it's like I had to enter through one waiting room, wait there, and then I was moved to another one, and then I would enter through a back door, go to the therapist, go see like the receptionist to pay, but my dad would always pay, so I just had to sign something to say that my dad's paying for it, and then would leave out another exit.
Sure.
So it was always they were very, very clouded and cloaked in privacy and secrecy, and they didn't want you to see any of the other guys there. I remember one time I walked into a wrong waiting room, and I saw some guys sitting there, and they were mortified. Not the guy, the therapist, sure, and the receptionist. I remember being very, very upset that day. Because, like, you cannot walk in those rooms. You cannot do that. You know, I was like, I'm sorry. I got confused which door I'm supposed to walk into. Yeah. And so it's like, when you're talking to this, like...
Well, and if you separate people, it's easier to convince them. I mean, it's like suspects in a, you know, with a detective or something.
Yeah. And when you're in it, it doesn't feel like that. It seems more insane now that I have distance from it.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you know, I would only ever see this therapist and the receptionist, and they were always so friendly and so, like... You know, it's okay. You're you know, like, I hope you're doing great. It's so good to see you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then before you know it, you're doing science equations at home about why you're broken inside, and they're zapping your hands.
Jesus Christ.
Literally. Yeah.
How did your faith play into the encounters you had on Unidentified?
Oh, interesting.
Because I look at Christianity as, like, you're in essence believing in spirits and demons, which is, kind of a very, like, non-Christian concept at first glance. But that show, just with your love of Halloween and...
well, so Matt's talking about this. I did you could either call it a documentary series or, let's face it, a reality show about me and my best friend, and we were, like, UFO hunting, essentially. Right. It was just 4 episodes on Peacock called Unidentified with Demi Lovato. And
Matthew Scott Montgomery.
Well, the official title is literally #Unidentified with Demi Lovato. I never got that whole tag, but I appreciate it.
But when season 2 comes, we'll renegotiate that.
Oh, yes, we'll see about that. So I do love spooky and scary stuff, but I never... The interesting thing with me is, like, can I believe in, like, God? Yes, but ghosts, no. For some reason, I love scary stuff and I love ghosts and the idea of it, but I still don't know whether I believe in, like, the paranormal, which I understand is so confusing.
Yeah,
and I'm curious about it and I seek it out. Like, I've done, like, ghost hunting. I want to see, like, a spirit. I want to see, like, a ghost. Mm-hmm. And I know I gave a big speech earlier about Hebrews 11:1 and faith is believing in things unseen, and now I'm giving a speech about I don't believe in ghosts unless I see it. I understand that there's that dichotomy there. However, that was part of the appeal for the producers for the show, was because essentially it's like Demi's a full believer in specifically ETs is what we were looking for, like UFOs and ETs. And I came in as the skeptic, kind of. So we didn't really on the show at any point talk about Christianity or God or anything like that, but I was partially hired in the idea that I would be the skeptic, where it's like, I don't believe in any of this, prove it to me,
right? Which
seems counterintuitive to everything that I've already explained today. But that was also like,
well, that's what's great about life. It's intricate.
Yes, it's complicated. But like I would say I was and am skeptical, but like a prove me wrong kind of way. Like I was very like positive about the whole thing. I was kind of like, I don't know, show it to me. And, if you watch the show, there's like, we see stuff in the sky, and there's at one point where we do like talk to this spirit through this like box, who's this like deceased sex worker named Carmen who died in like the year 1900, and she communicates to us through this box and says like, hello, and does all these other things. And at the time it felt very real, and I didn't see anything that was faked kind of behind the scenes with that, or like, but I left that experience being, we met this one guy in one episode where he was like, he worked for the British Defense. I don't know. I forget. It's something in some episode where we're in Arizona and there's this guy who taught us about Project Blue Book and things like that, where there's like unidentified things that have literally been unidentified. And he maybe it's this version, maybe it's his version of agnostic, but he basically goes like, I'm not sure. I don't know what I believe. But he said it like that, where it's like, I don't know. You know, like, is it possible? Yeah. Do I know for sure? No, I don't know. And like, that was like his take on all of it. And that's kind of how I view the idea of life on other planets, I think, or even ghosts or things like that. Is there stuff that's like, do I think there's life on other planets? Probably, right? Does it represent the way that we know it? Probably not.
Right.
You know, do I think that, like, you know, there's a different God for every planet across the universe? I think it's probably the same. I believe that, you know, there's one being in charge of everything, but is there stuff we don't know? Probably.
I would think so.
And so I'm still undecided about all of that, and optimistically undecided.
I love that caveat, optimistically undecided.
Yeah.
Because the way that you were talking about that guy, I was thinking to myself, like, it's not definitive. It actually sounds hopeful of like, but what if it could?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, and I didn't get a lot of pressure from this, but like maybe from producers or just people talking in general, they kind of want you to be, I get this feeling sometimes they want you to bash something or definitively say that doesn't exist. Or I'm not like an arms crossed, yeah, right, skeptic. That's like not my idea. That's like not my personality. And any really brief attempt that they try to do that with the show didn't work because that's just not inherently who I am. So
we live in a very binary world that doesn't really honor the gray space in between the binaries very well.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, the problem with every problem we have in the world. I mean, whether it's, you know, political, religious, or whatever.
Yeah.
I love Joshua Tree. It's like my happy place. And last time I was there with a couple friends, we just went out and just, you know, were stoned blitz like the entire time, right? And I had this knack, even out here on my patio, I see it, but there's a star sign that I see all the fucking time. And so when I was really stoned out there, I just went down this spiral in my head of like, this is a sign. I'm meant to communicate with this star sign. And so I ordered this how-to handbook. It's actually like, it's not like Aliens for Dummies, but it is like an actual train of thought and belief of how to communicate with the ET.
Yeah.
Not the movie y'all.
You to talk.
But like, it's a whole handbook of like it's journaling. It's like, you know, it's diet. It's all these things that factor into how to align with that spirituality. Yeah. And it actually like wigs me out a little bit when you're reading this handbook because it does. Yeah. Because it's not the optimistic caveat, but it is like, oh God, like, but what if like that? What if there is, and what if I am aligning, and like then what? Like I'll never go back to real life again. Like So anyway, so I've not finished the handbook, but it is of great interest to me.
I do want to point out though that you going to Joshua Tree, us going to, you know, the furthest reaches of like the middle of the desert in Arizona to see what's out there. I do think that there is a connection there between getting out of wherever you are to go someplace far away to look and see what's there. And that's not dissimilar from literally going for a walk or me sitting on the roof staring up at the moon. There's something about turning off everything around you and seeing what speaks to you. Yeah. So maybe what you're connecting with is God. Maybe it is all the same thing. Maybe it's just drugs. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
well, or like the disciples. I mean, like, were they not leaving their lives behind to go follow this figure that allowed them to be more enlightened and more impactful?
That's true.
I don't know. I'd often wonder, like, is the Christ something completely non-physical that these 12 or 13 people were experiencing at the same time, and then and thus had this, you know, this collaborative revelation. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, and I'll never know probably. Yeah. Emerson Collins, who we talked about a while ago, when we've had these talks, he always is like, you know, when I have these thoughts of like searching for like, you know, the real meaning in life, it just feels so narcissistic and arrogant because like for millennia, billions and trillions of people have been looking for like, you know, the real meaning of life, and nobody ain't found it yet. So what makes me think that I'm going to find it? And I always laugh now when I go down that thought of like, who do I think I am? Like,
well, that's, I think also there's something to be said about the getting outside of yourself and looking up and out at the sky does make you feel very, very small in a way that can be extremely comforting. Yeah. Because it's like, yo, that post that I posted on, you know, TikTok today that didn't blow up seems so stupid.
That audition that I didn't book.
Yeah. Or like whatever thing you're dealing with, You're like, this is something that won't be a problem a week from now in the history of the universe. It like doesn't even exist as a problem.
Yeah.
And so it's like sometimes you do have to get outside of yourself and separate yourself to see what's underneath when it's there. And I do think that you can spiral mentally sometimes, but like I think hopefully it creates comfort, you know what I mean, to see that like it ain't that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like life is too short. You know what I mean? Like let's love each other while we're here. You know what I mean? Everything is beautiful. I believe that someone designed it to be beautiful, or something designed it to be beautiful. Let's enjoy it while we're on this rock shooting through all these stars in space, you know?
Well, then to wrap, I always end the conversation with what would you say to the divine? Were they standing before you? But just to reiterate, because of this episode's context, I know we've already kind of addressed the audience who is struggling. But what would you say to the young queer kids who were like you and I, because that it gets better, I think, can be a little misleading, because oftentimes either better is 10 years from now, or it's not as good as they thought it was. But what would you say to someone struggling with their faith and sexuality?
That's a really good question, and I think I'm going to repeat a lot of what I've already said. I think if you're listening to this and you have been through conversion therapy or are in conversion therapy, or your parents are considering it for you, or it's something that's in your brain right now of something that's in consideration, it's my personal opinion that is not necessary, and that you don't need that. There's nothing that needs to be changed or nothing that needs to be fixed. I think that is a waste of your energy and time in life, and that you are loved and made on purpose.
On purpose. I love even just that little saying.
Yes. And I would also say to anyone, as much as it's within your personal safety, which is really important, it may seem very, very small, and I'm not being silly, but like if you ever get in a place where you're having dark thoughts or just confusion in general, go outside. Go for a walk, breathe some air. Put down the phone. Just like put down the phone for a second and find some time by yourself. Look up at the sky. My personal opinion is on a full moon, and see what's there and see what's underneath. It's my personal belief that what's underneath is that there is love, and that love was created. That love created you, and that you exist from a place of love. And these people, whether it's your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, boss, coworker, brother, sister, sibling, parent, abusive parent, family member, they've got it all wrong, and that they're missing out on the love, and the love is there underneath. And sometimes it takes a look up at the sky or a walk outside. And I'd also say, if you're feeling any of that and you're listening to this on that day, whatever day this is, within your financial means and safety, to treat yourself to something tonight, because you're cute and you deserve it.
Yes, you're cute and you deserve it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what would you say to the divine? Were they saying?
My first thought was, hey, girl.
I love that. Yeah. It's funny because some people are like, fuck you. Some people are like, I give gratitude. But I think, hey, girl.
No, the first thing I thought was, oh, hey, girl.
It's like the what Jesus teaches us to pray, like by starting out, our Father which art in heaven. What if in like the new like queer translation of the Bible, it's like, hey girl, I come to you today.
Yeah, I think to me, there is if I can remember that it's there is a friendly conversation happening in my brain and in my body at all times with a higher power that loves me. And it's really easy to get distracted from that. But that thing that I believe lives in me and in all of us is there, if we can remember that it's there. So the idea of saying, hey girl, is, oh, I'm finally putting an image, or maybe not even a face, but I'm putting an image and I'm seeing in person, I'm in the presence of my best friend that I've been talking to in my head my entire life. And that'd be, hey girl.
I'm gonna have to go back and process this, because it's the idea of like that best friend conversation in your head.
Yeah.
I have equated that person, that thing, that concept into an antagonist in my life, so I ignore it.
Yes, but I believe that antagonist is not God and has nothing to do with God.
Right.
The antagonist is the people who have like bastardized what the idea of God is. And I feel like you have to separate the two. Like, I feel like a lot of times I hesitate in saying the word Christian or I'm a Christian or Christianity because of what we associate it with. So it's like, what, you know, I have friends who are Christians, but sometimes I feel like I have to qualify and say like they're Christians, but like they're like actual Christians.
That but in there,
like what the Christian is supposed to be, because we are Christian, and you think, at least in my world, you think evil Republican. You think of like evil, hate-filled, demon, pure evil Republican. Like that's. And that was the Christian school that I went to. That was the church I went to. That was the environment that I grew up into. So like that, the personal relationship I have with God is completely separate from that. Yeah. And like has strangely, I like so much irony. You could cut it with a knife or whatever. It like God has absolutely nothing to do with that. And so like my idea of Christianity has almost no like basis in whatever that other thing is, that what it's become known for. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's like, so like I say yes, I am a Christian, but like you have to qualify it in a way, you know? And the work in separating the two is work. You know, because of what's been institutionalized with us and every message that we've seen and heard. We have every reason to not believe in God or to hate a God if it's what they say that it is.
Absolutely.
And like how could you not be justified in thinking all of that? But the God that I believe in exists completely outside of that, and is devastated that stuff even exists.
I agree.
Like is completely mortified. Jesus rolling over in his grave, even though he rose from the grave, you know, like that kind of thing. Where it's and that's the God that I go on walks with. That's the God that lives in my head, and it's not easy. It's not easy, but you have to work on remembering that that's there. And
gay man and gay man,
yes,
I love that. That's beautiful. That's where we're gonna wrap.
Okay,
that's
good.
So special. I really am so thankful for you doing this. It's been so special for me to hear your thoughts.
Oh, good.
It's every episode I do, there's a level of healing that takes place from my own religious trauma, and you certainly carried that tradition.
Good.
On.
I mean, we busted out that student Bible. We opened up
sure
Hebrews
did.
11.
Yes, that's the first time I think I've opened the Bible on this podcast.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm gonna
Wow.
I just got this last November.
Yeah.
And I've laughed at myself when I've been, because I mean, how many verses float through your head from childhood?
Yes.
From like either songs or just like, you know, proverbial sayings.
Yeah.
I'm like, where the fuck was that verse? And maybe
do you have a favorite?
You know, growing up, my favorite was Jesus wept, which I think is John 11:6.
Interesting.
And it was because it made it seem normal to not be okay. And so I think I like that. I think I'm going to go back to that one, Jesus wept, because it just, I think part of my obsessive tendencies come from Christianity of attaining perfection or, you know, pleasing people. And so even like now, you know, I try to diversify my protein intake as opposed to going full vegan or vegetarian. I can't do it all at once, but little steps I can. So it's like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be like, you know, sinless. You don't have to be completely faultless at all times. Like, you're going to fuck up. So I think that first, Jesus wept.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because sometimes I cry too.
Yeah. I've never thought of that verse like that in a way. I really like that.
I don't know. Yeah. Christianity is an interesting journey for me after doing this podcast, because I'm looking back at things I loved and that were weaponized against me. Yeah. And now I'm able to see like, oh, it wasn't a weapon. It was the person attacking it with something that they turned into a weapon, you know? Yeah. So anyway, thank you for being here, honestly.
Of course.
Now we're going to go downstairs and eat with Dell.
Yeah.
He's cooking us dinner while we were interviewing.
He's making some chicken.
I know. So we'll talk to you next time. And thank you again.
Thank you.
And all the people said, gay men. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Fagnostic Podcast, hosted by me, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com, that's MATHAYES.com, or on Just the Millennial socials at Hayes on It, HAYES on it. Please go subscribe, review, and share this podcast. And in the meantime, peace be with all y'all.
Hi, Michael Spicer here. Matt Hayes forgot to put my name in the credits of his podcast as the composer, but I'm here to tell you that I wrote the music for his podcast. Whatever it's called, I don't know.
If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or suicidal thoughts, there are resources and trained professionals available 24/7. It's okay to not be okay. Please call 800-273-TALK, 800-273-8255, or by going to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. For youth and young adults under 25, the Trevor Project is available 24/7 at 866-488-7386 and at thetrevorproject.org.